In the video today, we're answering a viewer question because Becky R asks us, why do they use 21 guns in the 21-gun salute? The 21-gun salute that we know today has its roots in the ancient tradition of warriors demonstrating their peaceful intentions by resting the point of their weapons on the ground. The notion of making a soldier's weapons useless to show that he came in peace continued even as warfare changed over the centuries. Gunpowder and cannons became commonplace among militaries and private forces both on land and at sea around the 14th century. In order for a ship entering a foreign port to show those on shore that they came in peace, the captain would have his crew fire the guns. This rendered the weapons inoperable for a period of time, with early guns only being capable of firing a single shot before crews needed to reload them. Traditionally, when a British ship entered into a foreign port, it would fire its guns 7 times. The reason for the 7 shots is widely debated to this day. One hypothesis states that the majority of the British ships at this point only carried 7 guns, and so firing 7 shots became the standard to signal to those on shore that the ship was now unarmed. Ships carried enough gunpowder and ammunition to reload multiple times, but beyond symbolism, the idea here was that the lengthy process of reloading would allow the soldiers on shore more than enough time to disable the ship with their own weapons if needs be. Another proposed hypothesis for the number 7 relates to the Bible. After creating the world, the Bible states that God rested on the 7th day, or the 7th event. There is some debate over the day versus event translation. So it has been hypothesized that the number could have been chosen in reference to its biblical significance, perhaps of resting with the ship coming to port after a long journey. Yet another hypothesis stems from the pervasive superstitious nature of sailors, combined with the historic notion in certain regions that the number 7 is sacred, and that odd numbers are lucky and even are unlucky. In fact, for a time it was common to use an even number of shots to signify the death of a ship captain when returning from the voyage that the death occurred on. Whatever the underlying reason, the guns on shore would return fire as a form of welcome once the incoming ship finished firing the 7 rounds. However, the shorebound guns fired 3 rounds for every 1 fired by the incoming ships, putting the total number of shots fired at 21 in these cases. As with the number 7, it's not known precisely why in the regions that use this number scheme that they chose a 3-to-1 ratio. What is known is as time went on where this was practiced, it became traditional for the ships themselves to start firing off 21 shots as well, perhaps due to the ships becoming larger and being equipped with more guns, with captains ostensibly preferring a 1-to-1 salute. This then brings us to when firing the 21 shots became considered a type of official salute rather than a symbolic way to indicate peaceful intentions. This seems to have started around 1730 when it became a recognized salute to British government officials. Specifically, the British Navy allowed its ships and captains the option to perform the 21-gun salute as a way to honor members of the British royal family during select anniversaries. About 80 years later, in 1808, the 21-gun salute officially became the standard salute to honor British royalty. While the British Navy adopted the 21-gun salute in 1808 as the standard, other nations such as the United States didn't adopt it until much later. In fact, the United States War Department decided in 1810 to define the national salute as having the same number of shots as there were states in the nation. That number grew every year that a new state joined the Union. Needless to say, this quickly became a cumbersome way to salute the United States and its dignitaries. That said, the United States did make the presidential salute a 21-gun salute in 1842, and in 1890 officially accepted the 21-gun salute as the national salute. This followed the 1875 British proposal to the United States of a gun-for-gun salute of 21 guns to honor visiting dignitaries. Essentially, the British and French, among other nations, at this point were all using the 21 guns for their salutes, but the US system required many more shots for their dignitaries. Besides needing to fire off more cannons, this also potentially signified greater honor to the US dignitaries than to those of other nations. Thus, the British proposed a 1-for-1 shot, with 21 being the number, which was accepted by the US on August 18, 1875. The 21-gun salute still represents a significant honor today. In the United States, the 21-gun salute occurs to honor a president, former president, or the head of a foreign state. It can also be fired in order to honor the United States flag. The salute also occurs at noon on the day of the funeral of a president, former president, or president-elect, along with on Memorial Day. You may have noticed that there's no mention of the 21-gun salute occurring during military funerals, and that's a common misconception. Known as the Three Volleys, the salute that occurs during soldiers' funerals follows a battlefield tradition where both sides stopped fighting so that they could remove their dead from the field. The series of 3 shots, or volleys, lets the other side know that the dead had been taken care of and the battle could resume. Therefore, the number of volleys is more important than the actual number of shots. Even the United States Army Manual's section on the ceremonial firing party at a funeral named the number of riflemen as between 5 and 8, rather than an exact number. And now for a bonus fact. Speaking of historical salutes, the Olympics used to have a salute, but nobody uses it anymore. Why? Well, let's describe it, shall we? In this Olympic salute, your right arm should be held out slightly to the side and pointing at an upward angle. Likewise, your palm should be out and your fingers touching. If at this point you feel like at any moment people might start mistaking you for a Nazi, well, it turns out that the Nazi salute is more or less performed the exact same way, except it is customary to hold your arm straight out in front of you instead of partly to the side. As you might imagine, the Olympic salute fell out of favor after World War II. Despite this, the International Olympic Committee hasn't yet replaced it with a different salute, even if nobody would dare use it for fear of being misinterpreted. The similarity of the salutes ultimately led to a great deal of confusion during the 1936 Olympics in Berlin over whether many of the non-German teams were saluting Hitler using the Nazi salute or whether they were using the official Olympic salute. This even fooled German audience members who sometimes misinterpreted the Olympic salute given by some teams as the Nazi salute and subsequently cheered more for those teams as they passed, such as the standing ovation the French team received when they gave the misinterpreted Olympic salute. Because the same confusion came up during the Winter Games a few months before, Britain decided to abstain from giving any kind of salute so as not to be misinterpreted as saluting Hitler with the Nazi salute. Here is a first-hand account of the event as reported by New York Times reporter Frederick T. Burchell. They marched in a procession once around the arena, saluting the dais, each nation according to custom as they passed. Then, turning across the field, they took their stand in columns great and small in front of the Führer and the guests of honor, their flags at their head. Quite naturally, in this long march, the interest was centered in the applause given respectively to each and the type of salute each nation gave the dais. The last item wasn't always easily determined because the Olympic and Nazi salutes are very similar. The Turks were the only team to give a military salute throughout. The Bulgarians drew down handsome applause by flattering German sympathies in a double way. They goose-stepped past Hitler and gave the Nazi salute to boot. The New Zealanders evidently mistook an erect German athlete in white who stood out in front, far to the left of the stand, for the Führer himself. They removed their hats for this outstanding figure and put them on again while passing the dais. Some teams apparently did not know the difference between the Olympic and Nazi salutes and rendered mixed homage. The Nazi salute was given by Afghanistan, Bermuda, Bolivia, and Iceland, besides, of course, Italy, which originated it, and the Germans. But all the flags of the nations were lowered while passing Hitler, with one exception. That of the United States went by proudly borne aloft. An official statement published in all newspapers, however, explained this as due to army regulations and asked for public understanding in the matter. In general, the salutes stood about equally divided between the Olympic and Nazi, but eyes right was common to all. The Americans provided their own special salute by giving eyes right and placing their straw hats over their hearts. This salute was also adopted by China and the Philippines. Both the Nazi salute and the Olympic salute are thought to be based on a supposed Roman salute, though no actual Roman text or artworks that describe or show it have survived. Despite this, in the 19th and early 20th century, it became very popular in plays, artwork, and movies to portray this Roman salute. This soon resulted in it being adopted by the Italian Fascist Party and then the Nazi Party. This was not without controversy within the Nazi Party, as many didn't like the fact that their salute was influenced by the Italian Fascist Party. In true Nazi form, an attempt was made to fabricate a new history which predated the Italian Fascist Party's use of the salute to make it appear the Italian Fascist Party was influenced by the Nazi Party in terms of the salute rather than the other way round. Hitler had this to say about the origin of the Nazi salute during one of his table talks on January 3rd, 1942. I made it the salute of the party long after the Duce had adopted it. I'd read the descriptions of the sitting of the Diet of Worms, in the course of which Luther was greeted with the German salute. It was to show him that he was not being confronted with arms, but with peaceful intentions. In the days of Frederick the Great, people still saluted with their hats with pompous gestures. In the Middle Ages, the serfs humbly doffed their bonnets, whilst the noblemen gave the German salute. It was in the Rathskeller at Bremen, about the year 1921, that I first saw this style of salute. It must be regarded as a survival of an ancient custom which originally signified, "See, I have no weapon in my hands." I introduced the salute into the party at our first meeting in Weimar. The SS at once gave it a soldiery style. It's from that moment that our opponents honored us with the epithet "dogs of fascists." Moving swiftly on a related note, during the 2012 London Games, a German official, Walter Troger, was accused of using the Nazi salute when the German team walked by, with this accusation in a photo being widely shown the world over by various media outlets. However, it should be noted that in his supposed Nazi salute, he put his left hand out, not his right, as would have been required to be the official Nazi salute, unless his right hand was disabled, which it wasn't. Further, he waved his left hand back and forth with it in front of him, like most people do when they're waving at something. Needless to say, the International Olympic Committee was happy to defend the official, who was in fact clearly just waving at the team, but the media blew it way out of proportion, as they are prone to do. It should be further noted that Troger once offered to exchange himself for Israeli hostages during the Black September terrorist attack. He also formally complained in 2004 when the IOC allowed Germans to wear shirts saying, "Blitzkrieg, it's only a game." As a German Olympic Sports Federation spokesman said, "It's infamous, disgusting, and unacceptable to create any kind of relation to Nazis. Troger's been standing all his life for tolerance, understanding, and fair play. I can't think of anyone who is less anti-Semitic than him. He is devastated that it was interpreted in this way." So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below, and don't forget to subscribe. Brand new videos just like this every day of the week. For more from me, why not check out another channel I do called Highlight History? I'm linking to that below. And as always, thank you for watching.